Welcome to the podcast. My name is Michelle Sinclair. I am a divine healer and spiritual teacher. Today we are going to be talking about overcoming the ego and how the ego harms and creates suffering, and that by overcoming the ego, we can bring divine peace and fulfillment into our life. So what harm is coming from the ego is that it is causing a separation from divine consciousness. And so the ego makes us believe that we are separate from God and from others and even from our true selves. And this illusion of separation creates feelings of loneliness, fear, and unworthiness. The ego clings to desires, possessions, and identities. And when things don't go as planned, we suffer because we resist change instead of flowing with the divine will, because our ego is saying, no, I gotta do this thing. I gotta stay in control. I gotta take charge here. And the ego, it constantly compares and judges and competes. It either tells us that we're better than or that we're less than others, which creates pride and insecurity, envy and resentment, judgment, complaining, criticizing. It creates all kinds of things because we're trying to figure out, where do we fit? Am I better than or am I less than? And when we feel less than, it creates these feelings within us. And when we feel better than, it creates these feelings within us. But all of these things come from the ego. All of them come from our humanness. And when we shed these things, this is when we become divinely centered. This is when we can truly make contact with the love of all that is. So the ego, it convinces us that we have to control literally everything. But true peace comes when we surrender and we trust divine guidance rather than trying to force outcomes, right? Our ego says, I'm in control. I need to do this. I need to do that. These things have to, if they're not going to happen without me. Whereas when we're in alignment with the divine, we just trust and we know, divine, you're going to show me where I need to go. You're going to help me to meet the people that I need to meet. All these things are going to come into alignment. Some of my very best friends that I've ever met, were totally happenstance. You end up flying on a plane and you're sitting next to somebody and you're like, holy cow, did I just meet my best friend? You didn't plan it. You didn't anything. The divine, when you trust, will just bring things into your life. But when you're there in your humanness and your ego, and let's say you meet this person, you might even talk yourself completely out of it and not understanding, this was a divine gift that I ended up, sitting next to this person, meeting this person, whatever it happens to be. The ego gives us the illusion of control. It is purely just an illusion because the divine is always in control, and it's only when we use the ego to override that we create problems in our life. So the ego, it thrives on fear, thrives on it. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss, or even fear of death. It keeps us trapped in anxiety and stops us from experiencing the love and the joy and the faith. But you know that you have free will. And so you are choosing these things for yourself. You can train your ego to tame it down a freaking notch. You got your ego because it's here to protect you, to try to keep you safe. But all of the ego programming is based off of past experiences in this life and in others. And so it presents itself in a way and you think, this is who I am. But think about it. When you were a teenager, what type of kid were you? Are you still that same type of person? Maybe you went through, maybe you went through a goth phase. Maybe you went through, I'm a sports type phase. Maybe you went through this type of, maybe you're still in it. Or maybe you've shed those old layers of yourself and you can recognize right now that was never you, but it was a mask. It was a facade. It was something that you were playing. It was who you thought you were, but you weren't. The ego tells us all kinds of things that are not true. The ego will even keep us in a victim mindset. When things go wrong, the ego blames other people. It'll blame other circumstances. It'll even blame God. What happens? This prevents self-growth. And it keeps us stuck in the suffering instead of seeing the challenge or challenges as lessons for what they are. There is a cycle that goes on. It's continuous, continuous, continuous. It is birth, betrayal, death, and rebirth. And when we can understand that this is the process that is used or has been used for growth, we can then let our ego step out of the way and not be a victim of this or of that, but realize this was part of the divine process, the perfecting process. Just as Jesus, born, betrayed, died, reborn. Look at all the religions. They all say the same thing. What they are saying what they are saying is that this is the process. This is the process. But when you're alive, and we're not talking about actual death, like Jesus crucified on the cross, well, we're talking about when it's a death of the ego. And when there's that death of the ego, we then have a rebirth. And we rebirth ourselves in alignment with divine consciousness. So when you rise above your ego, this takes self-awareness. So you need to observe your thoughts without judging them. And when ego-driven emotions arise, just pause and recognize them. You're like, that's a thing. Yeah, I used to do that. This is what I'm stepping away from. It is literally stepping outside of yourself and seeing yourself from the outside looking in when you have a thought and just recognizing, oh, I have this pattern. Oh, this is the old way. And just by this awareness, just this awareness in itself, it begins to shift things because you begin to not identify with the thought or the emotion so much, but you rather recognize it as something that is coming from somewhere else, from a trained mind, from the past, from past experiences. And you recognize it that this is not mine, but this is a thought that I have believed and that I'm now letting go of. And when you can recognize those judgments and those things that you've put out there as, I don't need that anymore, that's unnecessary, then your mind begins to stop. It just begins to stop it because it was doing it in the past because you kept feeding it. So it's like, oh, you like it. And unknowingly you did. But when you could recognize it, when you can step outside of yourself and you can view this differently, then it is viewed differently and it changes everything for you. When we shift from fear to love and we choose kindness and patience and compassion over pride and self-interest, we've made a gigantic, huge step. Now, for some of us, this is easy. You're already there. You already choose kindness and patience and compassion over pride and self-interest. You do this. You do it all the time. You are already rising above the ego, but if you are stuck in the ego, then you need to shift from fear to love. Fear says, oh, if I'm kind to this person, they might take advantage of me. But love says, no, if I'm kind to this person, they will be kind to me. They will feel my kindness and they will accept it. And they will want to return it back to me. Fear says, oh, I can't be patient for this thing. I need to force it. I need to make it happen. I need to push. I need to make this happen right now. Whereas love says, just be patient. And I'm going to give it to you. And it's just going to flow to you like water. Can you feel the difference between the pushing of the ego and the allowance, the flow of love? When we let go of past hurts and we really practice forgiveness, forgiveness frees you from the ego's grip and it reconnects you with divine peace, because unforgiveness is saying, I'm a victim to this person. I am better than them. Whereas when we use love rather than ego, it says, oh, I learned a lot from that experience. I learned what I don't want. I learned what I do want. I learned what I will never do to someone else ever again. I won't even think about it. And it allows you to reconnect. This is a reconnection with the divine peace. Now the ego thrives. It's like it's food. It thrives on past regrets, and future worries. It thrives on it. It's like all day long. That's all it does. Worries about the future and regrets about the past. Whereas when we live in the present, true peace is found in the right now. Because right now, all you're doing is listening to me, right? You're breathing. You feel pretty good. If you were to take in a nice deep breath and imagine that you're breathing in some energy, you could breathe in some energy into your body. You could do it right now. Oh, you just energized yourself. And right now in this moment, you're totally good, right? You're totally good. Everything is good and everything is wonderful. You're in the now and you're creating from the right now. And so when you bring in this excess energy, this uplifted, joyful energy, you're creating more of it in the future through electromagnetism. What we put out is returned back to us. What a beautiful thing this is. What a gift it is that you can give yourself to truly just live in the right now. And as we shed our ego, which when we begin this practice, we don't know what's ego and we don't know what's not. And I'm going to tell you, everything that you think that you are, that's your ego. Unless you just think that you are a soul being that emanates love constantly, then you're right. Because when you take yourself down to a soul level and you are in that divine alignment, you understand the oneness and the unity and the harmony of the universe and all that is. You understand that this cosmic Christ force, this awareness, this alignment that comes through living as Christ lived, changes things for you. So Christ did not allow his words to harm anyone. But there was that time when he cursed the fig tree. When he was walking and he was hangry, right? He was in his ego. And he walks up to this fig tree, hangry AF, and there's no figs on it, and he knew that there wouldn't be because it was totally the wrong time of year, but he's pissy, and so he curses it, and he says, may you never bear fruit again. And then the next day, he goes and he sees that this tree is withered to its roots, and never had his words ever caused anyone harm ever before. But he saw what his words did, how powerful that was. But that was his ego that did it. Because he forgot in that moment the divine provides for all. So had he taken a moment and rather indulged in his hangry, selfishness, essentially, by speaking bad to this plant and killing it, cursing it, had he in that moment prayed to the divine for a solution, immediately a solution would have been presented to him. So what a beautiful lesson this was, that Christ could experience the harm of his words. He knew that this was a result, that this was the potential, but he was now witness to it. He was visibly seeing the harm of his words, and he knew that he would too wither and die on the cross because of what he did there. He knew it. And all of this damage, every ounce of it was done because he was in his ego at that moment. Because let's keep in mind, he was a human. He was a dude. He was like you. He was like me. He was just a person. He was a human, but he got this divine guidance and download and information, and he knew that he knew, and you will too. When you know that you know that you know, you will not be able to help yourself but to spread it, because you will see all the suffering in the world and you will understand exactly why every single person that you see is suffering, because you'll be able to see it. And you'll be able to see it in their mind, and you'll know that it's because their ego is in control and that they're not living in divine alignment, because they're still living in the fear. When Jesus was preaching live in the love, and he told us do not fear 365 times, because I'm pretty sure he didn't want us to fear things. And he knew, because he talked about it. Reaping and sowing, he knew that what you put out, you're going to get returned back to you. And he did not want any more suffering for the people. He saw that they were already suffering enough under the heavy hand of the Roman governance, and that the things that they were being told, he knew that these things were not true, and so he was trying to teach them a better way. And he was just teaching them. He was telling them about the love. And he would go out into the countryside, and he would take examples out from nature, and he would say, look, Look, every single thing that you're witnessing, all of these things, they're made out of love. And when I heal you here today, it is this love that is doing the healing. There is nothing that I can do of myself, but it is the Father that does the work within me. And when people come to me, that this is what I tell them too. This is what you are witness to, is it is the divine love. And the only way that this came about was by shedding the ego and all of the things that are attached to the ego, like resentment, anger, unforgiveness, spite, malice, hatred, all of the low frequency things that are not in divine alignment. Could you see Jesus going up to somebody and being like, yeah, well, don't forgive that guy over there. I mean, he's the only unforgivable one that we got. You know, if he was from the South. Never, not in a million years, because this was not his teachings, because this is not truth. This is not the truth. And so when we hold on to those things that are not the truth, they harm us, they hurt us. And every single little bit of it comes from the ego, our humanness. But we're also not going to be punished We're not going to be punished. We are punishing ourselves through electromagnetism, through cause and effect, through karma, through reaping and sowing, whatever it is that you want to call it. It's all the exact same thing, different words. There is no punishment coming for you from some God on high. There's not. There's the laws of the universe, and they bring order into chaos. These laws bring universal order into chaos. There's not some God that's sitting there that's like, okay, 6,199,300,000 and calling you up by your number and being like, all right, tell me your story. Okay, yep, okay, you get to go to heaven. All right, next 6,300,000,000. You know what I'm saying? That's not what's going down. That's not what's happening. It's bigger than that. It's more beautiful than that. And what it is divine love at work. And it's constantly at work. And so you are not going to be punished for your humanness. You do this to yourselves. What you do to others will be returned to you. If you intentionally go out and you intentionally mean to harm somebody else, that's not going to be returned to you exactly that it was sent out. It is going to return to you with massive interest. What was the intent behind it? It's going to come back to you. It's going to come back and it's going to be huge like this wave. But like I mentioned before, birth, betrayal, death, rebirth. This is the process. You betray yourself when you do harm to another. And when that suffering comes back on you that was instigated by you, rather than hate it and spite it and be a victim of it, because you're not, you're the creator, love it. Be thankful it has come to show you. And so that you can evolve personally, spiritually, growth, so that you can not do those old things anymore. So you can create better lives for yourselves. And through creating better lives for yourself, you can help other people create better lives for themselves as well. When we believe in the truth, it'll set us free. And it feels like freedom. So any of the things that you have been believing that have been harmful to you, and have been limiting you, and have been limiting your connection with the divine, all of these things are ego. Fear-based ego things. And so you can pray to the divine and you can say, Divine, I know you love me and I know I love you and I want to be closer. I want to have a deeper connection with you. Please, I need you to help me to become aware, because first you got to be aware. I need you to become aware of the things that my ego still believes it's in control of. And I need you to help me to remove them and shed these things from my being. I need you to help me to step out of my humanness and step into my divinity, because I'm ready for it. The time has come, the time is now. As we are stepping into an era of love and peace, and it is our every loving thought that is a transforming influence on this planet. We are creating a better tomorrow by cleaning up today. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I thank you guys so much for being here. And the same ones of you keep popping up. I love you guys. You guys, I love you. 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 Thank you for being here. Please share this with a friend if you feel it could be very helpful to somebody else. And I will see you guys in the next one. Y'all take care.